hear that?
Slow down so they come up the side. Further away from them, so they further towards the sea. I hear the truck. Keep going. Just keep going. Now directly behind them. A bit closer. And now begin in front of them, straight in front of them. Go over to the right of it, so I'm not seeing my car. Yeah. I can't get them like that.
Guys, tell me how you came to record. Like, I want to know about the recording experience of the Unknown Blues.
Very cool.
Am I looking at you, Simon?
Yeah, over here.
Okay. The Unknown Blues ended up with a record deal with Viking Records through a guy whose name was Barry Coburn, who was he was a record salesman, traveller. He worked for Philips and various records. I met him at the Stage Door in Christchurch when I used to go up and see the charts. So whenever he came into Invercargill, he would call in and see me, and he would often give us lots of records that hadn't been released in New Zealand or proposed to be. That's how we got a lot of advanced copies. Now, he got us a deal with Viking because he thought we were good enough to make a record and could be rock stars. So he arranged a session in Christchurch. Can't recall the name of the studio. Robbins in Christchurch. You got it, Barry.
Yeah, I remember.
And at that time, a lot of the English bands, well, it seemed to be a trend with blues bands in New Zealand. The Underdogs had a huge hit with John Mayall's song Sitting in the Rain. The La-Di-Da's had a hit with a John Mayall song called On Top of the World. Chance R&B had recorded I'm Your Witch Doctor. So Barry sort of thought, well, what John Mayall song do you do? So we were doing a song called Suspicions. So by the time we got to Christchurch, Barry had arranged a recording session, and he had all these horn guys in there, because at the time all the Paul Butterfield, Blood, Sweat and Tears, John Mayall bands all had big horn sections.
That's horn, not Vaughan.
Now, you know, there was like two tenors and a trombone. We're up to it, the current vogue of the John Mayall, Paul Butterfield, all those bluesy bands. They'd gone a bit not modern, they'd gone all big band with horns. So we arrive up there, this really rough-edged, quite raucous band that was playing more a traditional style of blues, just guitars and harmonicas. We get to the session and Barry's hired like some professional jazz musicians to add this contemporary, you know, thing that was big at the time.
Sort of fatten it out.
You know, and with these horns, and we walk in there and they're all from the Musos Union. They've got charts in front of them of the couple of songs we were going to do, and they're very much looking down their noses. So one particularly beautiful memory is Barry and Vaughan going ping, ping, ping with the guitars, pretending that they couldn't tune them. Now this guy's got one of the finest ears for tunings I've ever heard in my life. And we do take one. Wombi leads up from his drums, just turn down the fucking bugles, you know, which really put these professional musicians offside. This seemed to be the thing that was a trend with us. So we recorded these tracks, a couple of tracks for a proposed single. Very, very strict kind of recording conditions. Again, of course, once again, you know, I don't feel like a musician, but more like a liquor salesman here. But the booze came out.
Out of the guitar cases.
Out of the guitar cases again. And they hadn't seen this before, and so, you know, the large southern bottles of Spades, the bottle of Vat 69 whiskey.
69, yeah, that's what.
It was a Vat 69 weekend.
Yeah, and it was an early morning.
Yeah, an early morning call. We'd had a gig the night before, and we were kind of carrying on. We had another gig that night. So we did the session. I remember hearing the playbacks and thinking they were okay, but I think Barry, like Benny Levin and everyone else before them, realised that we weren't the kind of bunch to take to Auckland and put on television and make little pop stars out of. And in a way, I'm very happy about that.
I can remember the thing that struck me about the session was these jazz musicians, they had white shirts on, and at least one had a black bow tie. And I thought, who's that for? You know, you haven't got an audience. And I can remember doing a really fine solo, a really nice big fat solo, and one of these sax musicians saying, oh, I think that would sound better with a sax solo. And I thought, who the fuck are you? You're here to support us. We're not here supporting you. So that's something I can remember.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the session, Barry?
Not a lot. I drank all the whiskey.
And he found his A string, and he lost his G string.
Too true, mate.
But my most memorable thing about that is that was the one and only time the Unknown Blues played in Christchurch, and Ken Wright, who in the latter days owned the Stage Door, had opened a club called Sweethearts, and they'd booked us a couple of nights gigs there. Now, upstairs at a gig called. Now they were packed, they were rocking, they were fantastic. Once again, a lot of our friends were there. Christchurch people used to go down to Dunedin to see us. Once again, a lot of the entourage had come up, and we had a Friday and Saturday night. The gigs were fabulous. They were a far better experience than the recording session.
And Hoagie was playing the sax.
Yeah, he was.
Jimmy Kirkpatrick taught me.
And a guy called Paul Fisher came along with a large bottle of beer and just filled the horn with beer as Hoagie was playing away.
He obviously thought I was a much better harmonica player than a saxophone player.
I bet, Paul. And what did you think when you heard your recordings? What was your reaction?
Well, we only heard them in the studio as a playback thing, and it was like pretty dismissive. I really don't think they sounded like the band because of the, you know, it was a chunk thing, but hearing these horns going, it just didn't sound like us. But
So what became of the recordings?
well, Barry Coburn, well-known New Zealand promoter who lives in Nashville now, that had huge success. He took Split Ends to Australia, got them their deal with Mushroom. That New Zealand Australian guy Keith Urban, he managed him in Nashville. But the Unknown Blues were the first band that Barry ever managed, and he didn't do so well with us. But Barry's a nice guy. I have no bad feelings about
He
it.
was a nice guy.
Really nice guy.
But I can remember him trying to tell us what to do, and it was funny, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because he little guy and all dressed up and like this. We were just laughing at him.
I need you to explain to me really concisely why there are no Unknown Blues recordings in existence today, and how do you feel about that?
We've got one.
There was
very rough.
one thing done live to air on 4ZA at the Battle of the Bands time, and a friend of Dave Garrick's recorded it off the